Morning, everyone. Is that working? Yay. So I had to make some emergency adjustments to my slides this morning. Oh, not working. Oh, no. That would help. There we go. So apparently last night, you were all busy doing this. So attention spans may not be quite what one would hope first thing in the morning. But that's okay, because in true enterprise tradition, I have a lot of slides. So who the hell is this guy talking to you? Anyone who bothered to try and Google me would have realized quite quickly that I don't do PHP. Well, I kind of do now, thanks to one particular person. So I'm actually one of the enemy. I come from Java. Ooh, the boos start already. This week we've managed to bring you at least 50 security vulnerabilities, which I think the PHP community will be quite sympathetic towards. We'll talk a little bit more about Java. In fact, the entire keynote is going to be about Java. I'm going to see how many of you I can make leave the room. So why am I here? If you find this lady running around PHP UK, it's her fault. So Zoe taught me PHP about 2 or 3 weeks ago. We were knocking up a quick WordPress website for my little Java startup. And she said, in Java, it'll take you 3 months to build a website. PHP, it'll take me 3 days. So I took her up on the challenge. She indeed knocked up a website for us in 3 days. And then she handed the code over to me with no documentation, no explanation, no nothing. She said, PHP is so easy to understand, so easy to code in, that you as a big Java enterprise guy should be able to figure this out easily. So I took a look at the first bit of code. I mean, really? Really? As a statically typed language guy, being able to do that is just horrific. It makes me have nightmares. I showed the code to my team and they ran away screaming. We started getting odd little bugs in our website. People would be able to enter things like 1.5 software units we want to buy because there was no type safety. It's like scary stuff. Really, really worrying. So I'm here to try and convince you that there is a better way. You don't need to have this dynamically typed nonsense. You don't have to have nightmares anymore. Use Java. That's right. So if you can imagine PHP as Java, you can have nice variables like this. So in Java, we like to have lots of factories, lots of beans, lots of XML configurations. So your code will start to look a little bit like this. It's quite nice. Java is statically typed, therefore it is much, much better. When we say we are going to have a big decimal, and we have to have big decimals because we're very enterprisey, we deal with lots of big numbers, we say it's a big decimal. There's none of this var nonsense going on, no dynamic typing, none of that rubbish. So you can see here, 0.2 plus 3 should equal 3.2, right? And Java's definitely going to get this right because, you know, we're statically typed and all that. Maybe not. So, enough of me trolling you guys about Java. It won't happen too much more throughout the keynote, I promise. So, I have some rules for this talk. First one is there anybody here who is legally under the age of 16 in the room? No? Good. All right, because they should probably leave. Do we have any sensitive souls out there? Anyone who doesn't like a few uncouth words, shall we say? One person, I'm afraid, sir, you should probably leave. Do we have any agile manifesto people here? People follow the agile? Yes. Software craftsmanship. Does that come into the PHP world yet, or is that a bit enterprisey? Do we have software craftsmanship here? No, not really. Okay, well, they need to leave as well. And there's got to be some of you guys here, right? Lean startup ninjas, are you iterating yet? Are you iterating yet? Are you iterating yet? I think you get the idea. Right, good. So now that we've set the rules, we're going to take you through the problem we have in the software industry today, and that is that we are bound by chains of what I call politely bullshit. We have all of these procedures, policies, techniques, tools, weights and weights of tools. We have IDEs, we have built-in continuous integration servers, we have cloud deployments, we have a proliferation of languages. Did you know that there are now almost more Turing-complete programming languages than there are spoken human languages on this planet? There's about 7,000 of each. It's quite scary. So I want to go back to the philosophy from this guy, Steve Ballmer. And he said one very, very fantastic thing at a very famous keynote where he was throwing chairs around the stage and he was sweating and it was all very exciting. Bill Gates never would have done that. He's dead on right what he said, and that's this. It's you guys who matter, okay? Everything, all the stuff that happens around you, all the fluff, all the management crap that gets put on you, all of the tooling, all of the people trying to sell you books, all of the techniques that you're taught, none of it matters. What really matters is you sitting down and creating beautiful, wonderful things. Because most people forget, and this is what I want you to tell people who say, oh, you're a programmer, you're very boring. Programming is one of the most amazing creative things you can do in your life. It is absolutely wonderful. With you and a friend and a keyboard, you can absolutely change the world. You can create amazing things like Facebook. Let me try that again. Twitter. That's a little bit better, right? So, you know, software changes the world. It topples governments, it feeds the poor, it can also do evil things as well. It's amazing power of change. So Steve Ballmer was quite right when he says, you know, it's all about the developers. So modern software development today, again, we have all of these amazing tools, we have all these amazing techniques. You can go study computer science at university, you can study for years and years and years, and if you're really good, you will become a Lisp master and grow a long beard and wear white robes. Or if you're one of the ladies, you will just sort of float in a yoga position. So we think we're good at software development today, right? We can do things like in PHP, knock out a website in 3 days. Yes. The Rails people will tell you it'll take them 3 hours. We suck. We suck so badly at building software. How many people in the past year have actually delivered a project on time, on budget, and with high quality? There are 10 liars in the room. The rest of you at least are honest. So I'd like to talk a little bit about best practices. There are lots of best practices in the PHP world, I imagine. You know, call your variables X. Make sure that you change the type of your variable wherever you can. Make sure the PHP file is at least 2,000 lines long, that sort of thing, at least from what I've seen. Best practices piss me off, right? Because what it actually does is it forces you to conform to someone else's idea of what they think is right for you and what is right for your code base. And you stop challenging yourself. You stop challenging your teammates because you just go, ooh, the fallacy of we'll appeal to the expert. Some book said this was best practices, so it must be right. Aim for this. Aim for better practices. Question everything. Question why the person in the book has told you to do it a certain way. Question why you've been told to deploy to the cloud. Question why we should use virtualization. Because it's more flexible. Talking a little bit about agile now. All the agile people in the room, you're going to get ready for this, aren't you? Exciting times. It is not a silver bullet. Are there any Scrum Certified Masters in the room? Your exits are there, and there's one over here. Scrum Certification is a pyramid scheme. The people at the top have made an incredible amount of money off this. It takes you only 2 days and I believe about 800 to 1,000 pounds typically in London to become a Scrum Certified Master. And in theory, you're then told you can go and take on the whole world. You'll run IT projects, they will be on time, they will be on budget, and they will be delivered with amazing quality and happy, smiling developers. The reality is, no, definitely not. So, Scrum Certification, yeah, no. Agile has always been about a culture. Things like collaboration over contracts. It is not a in-stone XP programming, you must pair programming, you must use Scrum, you must use Kanban. That was not the intent of the Agile Manifesto at all, to start with. So, can all the people who said they were Agile people put their hands up again? How many of you actually remember what the Agile Manifesto is? Keep your hands up. That's what I thought. Go back and read it, people. Okay? Software craftsmanship. Now, I don't think this is something that's happened in the PHP community too much, which is a good thing. They tend to wear black robes and sort of sway incense around the place. So if you see them in London, it's not some new religious cult, it's just the latest software cult. It's an excuse to be pretentious. So what I'm really trying to say is this is all you need to worry about. Okay? This is the methodology you should be following. The code should speak. The interactions you have with your teammates and your peers should speak, and not some methodology that is applied on you from way on high. Sorry, Zoe. She told me I should not be swearing on stage. I apologize. Still here. Good. Right, so some practical tips. Oops. Practical tips for you to break free of these chains. Okay, so you've been told you must do Agile, you must do Scrum, you must use this IDE, you must use this particular best practice. You've got to take charge. And the first thing you've got to do is when you wake up in the morning, you've got to look in that mirror and say, I am awesome. I do one of the most kick-ass creative jobs in the world. It is absolutely fantastic and amazing. And I don't need other people telling me how to go about doing it. So rule number one, you have to be passionate about your work. Okay? The very fact that you're here probably indicates that you're more passionate than the average PHP developer, which is a wonderful thing. If you don't care about doing software development, then I mean, really sitting inside with a keyboard and a computer and having your manager change your requirements on you every 2 minutes is not a fun way to lead your life, right? So unless you enjoy the creative process of creating software and working with teams to create beautiful, wonderful things, then go do something else. Still come back to this conference, by the way, because they need your support, but go do something else. You have to defend your empire at all costs. Okay? Don't let those little whippersnapper junior developers come in with their fancy ideas. All right? None of this, oh, we should try Jenkins. We should maybe try that live Rebel product which would make our deployments easier. No. That takes away jobs, people. And in today's recessionary times, we don't need our jobs taken away. So remember, shell scripts which fail regularly are still the way to deploy. Definitely the best way to go, and if you can combine some shell with some Perl at the same time, then you're really winning. And those young kids, they don't even know what Perl is. Regular expressions make them run away screaming. Right. You need to cultivate an atmosphere of telling people what to do but not doing it yourself. This is a sort of a key development management trick. So certainly things like, we should have code coverage with PHP unit. Encourage your teammates to go off and do that busy work while you get on with the fun task of actually creating the real business functionality and being the hero for your team and the hero to your boss. Because remember, in recessionary times, the person who adds business value is the person who will be kept on in a job. Make sure you're abrupt. Make sure you interrupt people all the time. You have to ensure that when your managers come and speak to you and say, oh, can I take you to this meeting? You just have to push them inside and say, sorry, I'm too busy. I need to explain category theory to my teammates, otherwise the website won't be delivered tomorrow. Very important. Sinking or swimming, something else that should be taught to all the new people coming into your team. So, for example, when I was being mentored by Zoe, she did this extremely well and said, so on the command line you can type man space PHP. And that is how you will learn PHP. I said, where do I download the binaries from to use all of these different plugins and things with WordPress? She says, well, you compile them from scratch, obviously. Yeah, so it's been a fun experience. Learn only from yourself. Cartman is very good at this. You don't need to listen to all the charlatans out there in the industry today. There is way too many of them. Must make sure you reinvent the wheel. Okay? I believe PHP has some nice frameworks to do web development. There's something called Zend, I believe. Is that correct? Yeah? No? Anyway, writing your own web framework is way more fun. It extends the project out for quite a nice few months. If you're a contractor, this is an especially good way to get renewed. I also like to write my own logging frameworks wherever I go. That's another good not invented here syndrome thing to do. It usually takes about 2 weeks to knock out a good logging framework. Make sure it's tag-based, by the way. Tag-based logging is good. All other logging is bad. Rant over. Don't read the books. Don't read the blogs. Don't go to the community sites. The internet is full of amazing advice. Amazing opinions. How much of it is actually verified? About this much. So places like Stack Overflow perpetuate this myth that, ooh, we can go somewhere and get the definitive answer from an expert. You just got the definitive answer by the person who answered first, and all the other lazy people just click the upvote button afterwards because, hey, it's the first answer they saw on a screen. Very, very concerning. I like to say that those who cannot code, teach. Those who cannot teach, write books. Do we have any PHP authors here? No? No one's willing to admit it now. Oh, there's one over there. Brilliant. So that person failed as a teacher and failed as a programmer. But there's one step worse. There is one step further than a book author. The people that you really, really cannot trust. Managers. That's not a bad answer. Yeah, managers actually are just about as bad, but conference speakers. Conference speakers are failed programmers who couldn't teach, who couldn't complete a book because they've got too much ADD syndrome going on, and they come up on stage and they tell you what to do. It's got to make you worry, doesn't it? When is the last time I actually coded more than 10 lines of PHP? Yeah, I haven't. And here I am at a PHP conference talking to you. Don't trust me. So don't trust the giants in your community. I had to look up who actually invented PHP. A guy called Rasmus, apparently. Wicked. Thanks. You've helped the Java cause nicely. People like Zoe, etc. You've got to be very, very careful. The real heroes, I think, in the industry, the real heroes, the real people who actually push us forward, push your entire community forward, is again you guys. It's the people producing code day in, day out, trying out new ideas, building new libraries, figuring out how on earth to make XML convert to JSON, dear Lord. Exploring new concepts like the NoSQL space, trying to make themselves, their community and their technology better. And it happens quietly away in offices, in homes, in schools, in universities all around the world. And yet all the attention is kind of focused on, ooh, when a book comes out, or a famous person has put out a blog post. Okay? What I would like to see is to see all of you producing blog posts, all of you regularly putting out on Twitter what it is you get up to day to day. Okay? Because those are the real challenges you face, the small day-to-day challenges, the small frustrations, and that's hopefully what you should be sharing with each other, and not reading some esoteric line out of a book, which you may or may not ever use. This kid is awesome. Why? Because he's coding in isolation. That's right. You don't, in today's world, want to be coding in a team anymore, because your teammates will stab you in the back. They will sell you out to your manager. They will cheat using git blame to make sure it looks like that you actually put in all the bugs. They will do things like tell their manager, ooh, look at the impact graph I have here on GitHub. See how much more productive I am than my colleague. And all they did was commit some long logs. Evil. So code in isolation, keep away from teams. You only end up fighting anyway. Definitely do not talk to the users. How many people here have got users who actually know what they want? One. I rest my case. So why bother talking to them? On a slightly serious note, it is better to prototype and throw something across the wall to them very quickly than to have them put out some sort of a specification which they will then change week on week on week. Humans are very tactile and very visual creatures, generally speaking. And so you need to throw them working code, or at least prototype code, as quickly as possible so that as end users they can play with it. And when they play with code, when they play with the prototype website you've put up for them, that is when they will actually really realize what they want. Okay? It is incredibly difficult for any human being to sit down arbitrarily, open up Microsoft Word, boo-hiss, and go, ooh, what is it my business does again? There's no context there. They actually need to get their hands on something and use it. Oh, and you're smarter than users, right? Software industry, we all have high IQs, therefore, by definition, they're dumber than we are. Mortgage-driven development. Very pertinent in London at the moment. The UK just lost its AAA rating. Go us. Soon we'll be in even more trouble. So you need to hold on to your jobs. You need to make sure that you keep information to yourself. Knowledge is power today. You must make sure that the only person who can read the source code is you. Zoe quite helpfully again did this for me by naming all of her variables X in the code base. X, X1, X2, X3, X4, so on and so forth. Wonderfully concise code, by the way. I mean, she certainly wasn't lying on that front. She will never speak to me again after this talk. Sorry, Zoe. So mortgage-driven development, very important. Keep knowledge to yourself. Do not write any documentation, or if you do, make sure you write it in something like Klingon. I prefer to use Elvish myself, coming from New Zealand, where we all learn this as part of high school now. Another key point is make sure you take source code home away with you. So instead of using revision control or source control, don't put your code up on GitHub, silly people. Take it away on a USB stick. And if your manager insists, absolutely insists, that you have source control, just put it in a local file on the file system and call it revision 1, revision 2, revision 3, revision 4. Visual SourceSafe did this very well for years. Fantastic version control system. This is one of the reasons why VB6 developers held on to their jobs for so long. It's good stuff. So we'll go on and talk a little bit about tooling now. I seem to be roughly halfway through my slide deck, which is good. Use the golden hammer for everything. I think that's pretty self-evident because you guys are PHP developers after all. So in the Java world, we just use Java for everything with a small sprinkling of XML, a few thousand lines or so. It's quite nice. Has anyone here actually had to code Java? Well, holy crud. And have you all converted to PHP because you just hated Java? Pretty much? Or was it just the XML configuration that finally made you give up? Cool, so use the golden hammer for everything. Wonderful, wonderful way to go. This is my golden hammer. Anyone here use Emacs? Get out. How very dare you? Unbelievable. And I saw someone tweet today going, oh my God, NetBeans 7.3 has come out. It's the best PHP IDE ever. I'm still trying to hunt that person down and give them a copy of Vi. Vi is the only editor you can ever rely on. And why? Because at 3 o'clock in the morning, when you have a production problem and you log onto that remote server, what do you get? You don't get NetBeans. You don't get Eclipse. You sure as hell don't even get an X window. You just get this little flashing green cursor mocking you, daring you. Fix me, fix the production problem while the manager is screaming at me at 3 o'clock in the morning after I've been to PHP UK and had one beer too many last night. This is your friend. Learn to use it. Learn to use it well, and you will look also more elite in front of your colleagues, who will tell your boss, and you'll keep your job. Cool. So GUIs are evil. Command line is what all the elite hackers should be using. By the way, most of the so-called elite hackers I've talked to who work for organizations, the shadowy anonymous and people like that, don't actually use command lines. They just sort of double-click on scripts. Sad. You need to make sure that you have a room to code in. Who here is in some sort of crazy open plan office? Do you actually ever get any work done? No, exactly. Right? So open plan offices, and this is again coming from the darn school of Uber Agile, capital A Agile as I like to call it. We need to collaborate more. What we will do is take a very skillful, highly logical, highly creative task, and we will make people do it in an environment which is more like a rock concert. Go create really high quality stuff in that environment, people. Yeah. So make sure you get a room, preferably a nice dark room. Again, I'm showing my prejudices slightly here. So coming from New Zealand again, we're starting to build little hobbit holes for programmers. And I tell you what, they work a treat, because you have that nice little kitchen, and as long as dwarves don't come, charging in, aka managers, you're generally pretty happy. Sunlight is a curse. It just shines off your screen and you can't see what you're doing anymore. It's horrible stuff. I think that's why there are so many programmers in London, actually. There's just no sun here, ever. You need to have at least one gaming console. And no, I don't mean your Android device or your little iPhone. Okay? You need to go back. You need to have a ZX Spectrum 80, maybe an old Nintendo console if you want to be a little bit retro, which is quite in at the moment. Why? Because programming is a creative activity. You cannot sit in a boring corporate office and be inspired. You don't see artists sitting in a corporate boring office to do their artwork. You don't see poets doing it. You don't see writers doing it. Programming is actually a very similar creative activity. You can go out and see lots of studies done by smart people at MIT and all that in Cambridge and Oxford, which actually shows the brain activity of people who are doing art and music and mathematics and programming. Very, very similar brain activity. So the sorts of thinking you do, despite the reputation that we have of being a very logical community, a very logical profession, we're actually incredibly creative. And so you need to surround yourself with creativity. Gaming consoles are certainly one way to do that. Google has probably taken this to slight extremes. Anyone here from Google? It's like a kindergarten in that place. It's unbelievable. It's like, I can't believe you get work done, all the shiny toys. It's very cool. This is really important. This is my anti-manager device. So I have two rear view mirrors on my monitor. And anytime I see a manager coming within about 5 meters, I get up and go talk to a colleague, or go make a coffee, or just wander outside and wait till the manager goes away. So I was contracting at one of these big investment banks about 3 or 4 years ago, very soul-destroying stuff, converting Java to XML, XML back to Java, Java to JSON, JSON back to Java. Really fun stuff. I did not speak to my manager in 6 months. Thanks to these guys. It was so good, in fact, that it was actually only a 3-month contract. And they just kept me there for another 3 months. Why? Because my manager could never find me to get rid of me. Brilliant. Talking about source code a little bit. Now here's a lovely little diagram of the amount of Java you need to write to do some logging or some basic translation of Java to XML again, versus closure. And if you can't see the closure graph, there's a reason for that, because it takes about 3 lines of closure to do anything. Do people actually know what closure is, by the way? Half a crowd? Okay. Do people know what Lisp is? Yay. So closure is the Lisp on the JVM on Java. And even the Ascended Lisp masters say that closure is Lisp done right. So it might be worth checking out. You do have to get used to the fact there is 1 million open brackets and 1 million closed brackets. But if you have the right editor, Vi, it actually nicely rainbow colors that for you, so you're all okay. So source code is very, very important. It's the only true source of anything in a software project. Documentation, bit rots, commit messages are usually lies or contain lots of swear words in my case. Saying why, PHP, why. Source code is king. Only use one file. Now in Java we have this concept that Java is nominally an object-oriented language. It sort of is. It isn't truly, but it's the myth is out there now, so we just keep perpetuating it because it's popular, right? So we typically like to put source code in lots of different what we call class files, and every class file represents a different type of object. And in Java this proliferates. We have thousands of these things in even a small project. And I've seen this creeping over to PHP. So Zoe, for some reason, had this really nicely modularized PHP code that she handed over to me. And everything was in kind of these well-named distinct files. Little PHP functions nicely split off. I couldn't find anything. Especially when you're using Vi, it's quite frustrating. My grep isn't that good. And I couldn't find anything. So what I've done is I've merged all of those PHP files into one giant PHP file. It's about 14,000 lines long. And it's fantastic, because on my Mac I can just say appleF and I can find anything. It's brilliant. So go back to using a single source file. It's much easier to use in an editor such as Vi as well. Good times. Who here designed sort of architectural layers? 3-tier architectures. Do we have any of those? There is a bit of a dirty rumor going around that PHP is just basically one layer. Because in Java we typically have at least 9, because we're enterprisey like that. We like our layers. Please, please, please do not fall into the trap that our community has. Java is horribly infamous for over-architecting the living daylights out of everything. I took a look at one CRUD system the other day, and it was just a very simple payroll system, and they just had to save a single staff member down to a typical MySQL database. There were 9 layers in between. 9 layers. Can you imagine it? So please don't do that. Hit the database directly from the web page. That's the way to go. You guys do that already. No problem. We like to talk about the single responsibility principle in Java or in software craftsmanship. Have people run across this term? So again, you'll see the people with the black robes swinging the incense. They'll be chanting this like a Gregorian chant. SRP, SRP. And the principle basically is this. Your function should do one thing and one thing well. Seems reasonable, doesn't it? Yeah, do people adhere to that sort of coding style? Functions should do one thing well, they should be named well, they should only try and return one thing, these sorts of basic rules. So in the Java world we talk about our classes, our objects should do one thing well, our methods, which is synonymous with your functions, should do one thing and one thing well. What a load of nonsense. Because you know what happens? You get function proliferation. They breed like rabbits. You end up having thousands and thousands of little tiny functions all over your PHP code. And you can't find anything. And you end up repeating your code all over the place because I'm sure I did that little piece of string manipulation in a function somewhere, but out of the 1,500 functions I have in my one giant source file, I can't find it. So you know what I'll do? I'll just write a new one. Copy and paste off Stack Overflow, job's done. So what you really want to do is have what I call multiple responsibility principle. It's going to be a new sort of software methodology that I'm going to promote. So if anyone wants to join me in the cause, I'll be having a mrp.org. And basically, not only should you have all of your PHP code in one file, it should all be in one function. And one of the reasons why is because humans are incredibly good at reading things procedurally. Very good at reading flowcharts. So going step A, step B, step C, step C. Oh, there's an if condition. We'll hop out to one side. E, F, G. We come back. So on and so forth. You can show that to any 5-year-old child, even younger, and they will usually understand it. This is the reason why Visual Basic 6 was one of the, and still remains, most popular programming languages on the planet. Because it spoke to the average human being who understood flowcharts, understood procedural programming. And you will find that despite all of the people who claim they are functional programmers or claim that are object-oriented programmers, take a really careful look at the source code. You will find more often than not that the code you write is actually procedural code. Try the PHP to VB.6 converter. Try it one day and see how much your code actually really changes. You will probably be horrified, quit your job immediately, and go do something else. Copy and paste is okay. I don't think I need to tell anyone in the audience that, actually. There's a bit of a movement in the software craftsmanship world at the moment saying that copy and paste should be banned. Their priests have actually gone into IDEs and disabled copy and disabled paste. I kid you not, they do this in workshops. This is unbelievable. They say everything should be handcrafted from scratch. You should always know what your intent is, what you are going to be building. When you copy and paste, you are being lazy. Rubbish. Copying and pasting is the fastest way to code, the fastest way to knock together a conference presentation. I'm going to be in so much trouble on copyright notices with this talk. Ah, dear. Right, so we've talked a little bit about the chains that bind us. So some of the tools, some of the methodologies, agile, software craftsmanship, all these horrible things. And we've talked a little bit about how we can break free of these chains, how to dodge your manager, how to avoid the Scrum Certification pyramid, how to make sure to use Vi, put all your source code into one file. All good, useful, practical stuff you can take away. I, by the way, would like to challenge you to send out some tweets about these pills of wisdom and see whether it actually really propagates across the PHP community. I'd love to see if it works. So we're going to talk about some of the really modern things that are starting to come into the industry. Some of these, I guess, topical points, areas of technology or areas of methodology that we are expected to adhere to today. And the overwhelming message is that if you don't keep up with the Joneses, if you don't keep up with the future, the bleeding edge, you will go the way of the dinosaur. And some young, faster programmer fresh out of university with the PHP 5.5 beta manual in his hand or her hand will take your job away from you, take your mortgage away from you, and the next thing you know is that you'll be coding Visual Basic 6 in some lonely office in Microsoft somewhere. Sad times for everyone. So, let's talk about cloud. Who here is developing applications in the cloud? Isn't that interesting? You would think by the tech media and you would think by the conferences and the books out there today that everybody is on the cloud. Now, I saw about roughly 8 to 9% of the audience say they were genuinely doing stuff in the cloud. So that's really interesting. And I've been asking this question for the past 4 or 5 years, and every year it's about the same percentage. The whole cloud thing is a bit of a fallacy, it's a bit of a myth. If you've ever fired up a virtual server that is not sitting on the box under your desk, you are in the cloud. So I mean, it's, the hype around it is certainly quite interesting. So meh. That is what I have to say about cloud. If you really have to go into the cloud, you need to research all of its limitations. There are some really horrible, horrible lessons that people have learned the hard way. Hello, Twitter. Things like Amazon will go down regularly. So if you really want to have high availability in the cloud, for example, you need to make sure that you've split your code between virtualized servers or virtualized data centers in Amazon and outside of Amazon. So maybe something on East Coast, maybe some small little ISP sitting in Germany or the UK, maybe something else in South Africa, just to be really sure. Then you get really fun problems like, oh, well, how do I distribute my data across all of these data centers so there's effectively a master copy in all of these data centers? I know, I'll use one of these NoSQL solutions. And now you have 2 problems. Let's talk about mobile. Who here is doing mobile development? Ooh, I thought I was going to be cruel here. How on earth are you doing mobile development with PHP? I have to ask. Because Android doesn't support PHP natively, as far as I'm aware. Apple sure as hell doesn't support PHP natively. Objective-C is the way to go. Unfortunately, the days of being a successful mobile developer is already over. So out of all the people who held their hand up doing mobile development, how many of you have made millions off it? No, because you're sitting here in a PHP conference. If you had made your millions, you'd be hosting your own PHP conference and would all be in the Bahamas, and it would be a wonderful time. So the reality is today that unfortunately already the very large software studios and the large game studios have completely taken over the mobile space. They put in multi-million or multi-hundred thousands of pound budgets into the top paying applications. And it's very, very difficult for an individual developer or a small studio or a small group of individuals to make a big impact. Look at the research. You have more chance of winning the national lottery ticket here in the UK than you do of making it big in one of those app stores. So if you're going to build a mobile app for fun or for profit, then you might want to take the rose-colored lenses off and take a very, very careful look at the space. Sure, it is fun. However, for you personally, it may not be all that profitable. So meh. And for PHP, unfortunately, you're not really allowed to anyway. Someone correct me after the keynote if I'm wrong. No SQL. Mongo. Who here is using Mongodb? Is it web scaling for you? It's not really web scaling for us very well. It's been okay. Derick, if he's here in the crowd, has very kindly been patching the PHP driver bugs for us just about every week. NoSQL is an incredibly immature space, and it has several problems. One is, there's no documentation. 2, the drivers tend to suck. 3, they store everything either as binary blobs or as JSON. 4, has anyone tried querying one of these things? So my favorite story comes from a NoSQL solution called Ryak. It's fantastic. It does master-master replication. It's incredibly fast. There is a company called Crux Digital, which actually replicates data, more data than Twitter has ever had as its daily peak. Every single day, they replicate it across the world, syndicate it, works like an absolute charm. There's only one small problem. In order to query it, you have to write a MapReduce in Erlang. So we took a look at Mongo. And we went, cool, did most of the stuff we expected it to. We got it in there, we were all excited. And then my financial director said, cool, our customer data is now in this cool replicated MongoDB thing. How do I get the data out? And I was like, ha, Moss, all you have to do is write a bit of JSON to query the database and you can get the data out. And he just gave me that 1,000-yard stare and said, did you just tell me to go and fuck myself? And I sat back and I thought, yeah, I think I pretty much just did. So guess what our company's doing right now? Yep, we're writing a SQL-like querying interface on top of MongoDB, so our poor business people have actually got some hope in hell of getting data back out. So be very careful with NoSQL, because sometimes things like this happen. By the way, if you haven't seen the website already, onlyhadonejob.com is fantastic. So you should get rid of the fluff. It's going to be sort of my last key points. You want to get rid of things like testing. Get rid of the test team. Don't need them. Get rid of the documentation. Nobody's going to read the 60-page Word document you wrote anyway. Get rid of the source control. Get rid of all the extra hosting servers. Get rid of the business analysts, because they're just the middle person between you and the customer doesn't know what they want anyway. Don't need those. This one should be popular. Get rid of the project managers. Down with the managers. How many project managers in the room? Ooh, 2 people admitted they were project managers. Well, I've offended just about everyone else anyway, so that's fine. So get rid of the fluff. Source control, you don't need it. Again, keep the contents on your local drive, take it away on your USB stick, keep your job safe, keep your job secure. Some companies go to quite nice extremes, actually. Microsoft is very good at this. They don't let anyone have access to the source code. You only ever get binary. There's no such thing as open source, none of that namby-pamby stuff. So consider going closed source for your application development. Keep your source closed from your teammates. If they want to have your source code, say no. This is a closed source piece of code I've written. Here's your binary. Enjoy. Ignore the underlying platform. You guys just use Apache and MySQL anyway, right? It's all pretty standard, so don't worry about understanding how Linux works or how virtualization works. Don't worry about how the PHP runtime works. You don't need to know that. Really smart people have taken care of that for you, and it will never ever go wrong, will it? No, so it's completely fine. So ignore that underlying platform, because otherwise you spend a lot of time having to read Linux manuals and read man pages, and you're not coding PHP, which is what you love to do, right? So ignore that fluff. That's fine. Continuous integration, I think, is an absolutely fantastic thing. We're always continuously integrating our code. Every time I add a few new lines of code or I copy and paste something from Stack Overflow, I'm integrating into my one source file. So I don't really see what this whole CI buzz is all about. Continuous integration also goes away when you have a single source file in your team, because only one developer can edit that one source file at a time, which gives all the other developers time to spend time designing things on the whiteboard, having sword fights on their wheelie chairs, doing that sort of creative thinking that our industry needs. This is at least what we tell the project managers. Small serious note, the one thing that did frustrate me about the whole PHP space initially, until I started learning more about what tooling is out there, is that it's a little bit immature in the terms of tooling around build and deployment at the moment. And I haven't tried this stuff out personally, but it looked interesting. So go take a look and see if you can boost your productivity and see if you can actually get your stuff out more quickly and don't have to worry about the underlying platform so much. We've been actually doing this in the Java community for years. We're really, really good at ignoring the underlying platform. The whole write once, debug everywhere promise. Basically, if the syntax highlighting in Vi says that your PHP is good to go, then the damn thing is good to go. Ship it. Get it out there. And I'm quite serious about this. Remember, users need to see your code as soon as possible. And that includes the other members in your development team. They are the users of your software. Get it out to them really, really quickly. Warts, bugs, good things, bad things, everything. The sooner you get code out to people, the sooner discussions happen, the sooner refactorings happen, the sooner people realize what the real requirements actually are. And the more time you can also spend putting in more Easter eggs into your code base as well, which is always fun. So when the syntax highlighting says you're good to go, get it out there. I personally commit to GitHub probably when I'm actually coding, which sadly isn't as often as I'd like anymore. I probably commit about 200 times a day. Quite seriously. Every time I get a good couple of lines of code in there that either compiles or in the case of a scripting language says it's good to go, I get it out there. Make sure you run your source code through a service or through a library that makes it completely unreadable. Naming your variables X sometimes isn't good enough. Has anyone seen the source code for LibreOffice or OpenOffice? Yeah? Have you seen what they've done with the variables in the comments? It's brilliant. It's all in German. Absolutely fantastic. And I went and had a chat at FOSDEM in Brussels to the developers. And they just shrugged their shoulders and gave me the most maniacal grin and said, yes, and we've been controlling this piece of software for the past 10 years. And you know what? No one is ever going to take it away from us. Not even Google Translate. Brilliant. So I would certainly recommend that. It's getting harder, actually. Google has got a lot to answer for. Go have a chat to the Googlers at the back and tell them off. I had source code in Klingon the other day, and one of my colleagues was actually able to throw that into Google Translate and get it translated. I was so mad. I'm going to have to now invent my very own language. Ignore the small, simple bugs. Ignore the low-hanging fruit. These are the sorts of things that you can fix very quickly and make people very, very happy. So what you need to do is ensure that you don't ship a polished product. Make sure you ship a product that has lots of small bugs in it. Humans love to pick up on small bugs. Ooh, that icon isn't in the cornflower blue I asked for. Or there's a tiny spelling mistake in the corner. In the meantime, they've completely forgotten about the feature that you promised which you didn't deliver. You've got a fantastic series of little bugs, and you can fix them really quickly. And you go, look, I just rolled out a new version, and I fixed the bug. And they're like, wow, that's customer service. It's an amazing piece of human psychology, actually, that the most important rule of customer service, and people in the United States will tell you this especially, keeping the customer happy and feeling good about the problem is 99% of the battle. And it's the 99% of the battle that you need to win. You don't actually have to fix the problem. You just have to make them feel like you're going to fix the problem. Interesting psychology trick. Don't write comments. Just preaching to the converted, I suspect here. Testing is definitely a waste of time. Okay. Your users are actually your best testers. Get rid of the test team. Nothing survives contact until it hits the enemy anyway, and the enemy are your end users. Your QA team will do all sorts of stupid stuff that users would never do. Oh, we put in -5 billion into this field. What user is going to do that? I mean, unless, you know, my 3-year-old niece gets her hands on the keyboard, I think we're going to be okay. So, in conclusion, back in the day, in the 1950s, 1960s, 1970s, when our forebearers were writing software on punch cards in languages like Fortran and COBOL if they were lucky, handcrafting bits of assembly to work on RISC processors, they did this. All right? I want you to take a long look at that and think about the tools and the methodologies that software developers had to build that. So why the hell do we need all the crap we have today? Most developers, most of us can't even get a half-assed website up in a week. With all the modern methodologies, all the cool tools, everything. Can barely say hello world. They did that. Interesting, isn't it? So I would think on that. I would think, are the methodologies, are the tools, are the best practices actually stopping me from thinking about what the real problem is, solving the actual programming problem, looking at the code, thinking about the code, and working closely with my teammates to solve the real problems as opposed to worrying about, oh, we need to do our stand-up, we need to do our retrospective, we need to fill in this piece of documentation. Are you doing that? Are you building that? That's what you should be focused on. Thank you very much.